הבאים. אתם בסדר? אם אתם פה...
You're on.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
That was inadequate.
I tried.
I know. I'm a visiting rabbi. I get so judgmental, right? Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
That's so much better. That's wonderful. We're going to greet the Shabbat angels, the angels of our better nature, the angels of love and compassion, the angels that lift us up in this time that is not really time anymore. It is suspended. It is Shabbat. Literally means cessation. In modern Hebrew, a labor strike is a shavita, a cessation. So you are free not to do, but free from all that would oppress you in this moment, this sacred island of time, as Abraham Joshua Heschel called it. If you turn in your books from right to left to page 142, you'll find the Song of the Angels, Shalom Aleichem. It's the old tune. I hope you join in. Please turn in your books to 120 from right to left, Pam and Ivan. Please come up and help us greet the Shabbat with light. This is becoming a regular thing for us. This is kind of fun.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Still got it. Nailed it. There we go. Just hold it there. There. Perfect.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahad l'ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu le'adlik shel Shabbat.
Thank you so much. Please turn to 125 in your book. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. On this day, Shabbat, abide. Please read with me. Help me to withdraw. On this day, Shabbat. So turn in your head in your books to 136. You'll find Lecha. Oh, I think you will. Hold on a second. I could be wrong. 138. One more page. It's our custom to do verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. In the last verse, I'll ask if you are able, in mind or spirit or body, to rise and face the rear for the last verse. In the last line of the last verse, Bo'i kala, may the bride come, may the bride come. We bow. Maybe, where's Janine? If she's still out, oh, Janine, I thought you were out there. I thought you were going to be the bride tonight. So that was a long time ago. Anyway, if you don't know it, hopefully by the last verse, you'll be able to join it. La 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 lecha dodi, la 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 lekrat kala, la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat tikabel, la 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 lecha dodi, la 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 lekrat kala, la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat tikabel. Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat, tikabel, verse 2, likrat Shabbat, lechu b'nelcha, yikor ha'meracha, berosh rikedem, be'esulam, sof ma'aseh,
לקראת כלה.
Please rise and face the rear.
בני שבת, בני שבת נקרא.
Verse 9.
בואי בשלום, עטרת עלה. העם נשיאים זולה. טוב אלוהי הגאולה.
We bow to the left.
בואי כלה.
To the right.
בואי כלה.
Please be seated. Nine, nine, nine. La 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 לקראת כלה. La 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 בני שבת.
בני שבת נקרא. בלה לה 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 דגדלים. לה 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 לקראת כלה. לה 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 בני שבת. בני שבת נקרא. בלה.
Psalm 92 is the psalm for the Sabbath day, and you can find it in your book on page 140. We're going to read, and by the way, I've never had a congregation get this instruction right, so listen closely. We're reading to the bottom of the English where it has a colon. We don't read the indent, we do the Hebrew tzaddik katamar. And somebody always goes on and reads in the English, but let's see. Maybe we'll break our record tonight. Together. A psalm, a song for Shabbat. It is good to praise Adonai, to sing hymns to your name, O Most High, to proclaim your steadfast love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night, with the 10-stringed harp, with voice and lyre together. You gladden me by your deeds, Adonai. I shout for joy at your handiwork. How great are your works, Adonai. How very subtle your designs. A brute cannot know, a fool cannot understand this. Please turn to 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish before the Baruch Hu, the call to worship.
יתקדל ויתקדש שמר הבא.
Amen.
בעלמא יברך ידותי והמליך מלכותי. מחייכון ויומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל. בהגלה בהגלה ובזמן קריב והימרו אמן. יש מרבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי המיה. יתברך יתברך וישתבח, ויצפר, ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתתן, ויתעלה, ויתהלל, שמי קדושה בריחו, להלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, נמירן בעלמה, ויאמרו אמן.
Please turn the page and rise and bow to your spirit for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship.
Baruch Hu et Adonai, Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach, le'olam avad.
We remain standing and turn the page. We're going to read the blessing for the evening in English together. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully does times and changes the seasons. In the heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness, darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzvaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv. Please turn the page and we sing together Ahavat Olam, for God's eternal love.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha avta, Amecha לעולם ועד.
Please be seated. Turn the page.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם לכל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Those of you who've been with me all year know that the sages teach us that the Ve'ahavta must be read in a language understood by the heart. So whereas we don't usually do Hebrew and English of a prayer, this one we will, but we'll read the creative reading based on Ve'ahavta on the facing page. Feel free to join in with me. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you're rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt.
To become your God. I am Adonai your God.
Turn ahead to page 159. I'm going to read the English passage, after which there is a new tune we're introducing for Mi Chamocha, one of my favorites, and I know Cantor Jen is introducing it later in the year as well. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Mi Chamocha is on the facing page.
Ad Adonai Yaakov, וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו. Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
On 161 at the top, there's a beautiful rendering of the English with a little Hebrew thrown in by Noah Aronson called Let There Be Love. We've sung it before. If you know it, join in. If you don't, it's English. You can learn it.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm.
Again.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life.
The Hebrew, Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Shalom, Shalom. Do that again. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Let there be love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let
Peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Ashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Ashkivenu,
the end here. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu, yal kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, who spreads a sukkah of peace over us, over all God's people, Israel, over Jerusalem, and we hope over the entire world. On the next page, you'll find the Vishamru, Exodus 31, 16 to 17, which tells us that Shabbat is our perpetual gift to observe and enjoy and rest and love.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוזי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוזי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
Last chance, everyone.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Please rise and body your spirit. As we begin the Amidah, we pray that we be able to pray. There's this beautiful little poem snippet on the facing page on 165 that I'll read before we chant Adonai. It says, in an envelope marked personal, God addressed me a letter. In an envelope marked personal, I've given my answer. Adonai.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi gittilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Lea, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומשיח ומגן. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, v'Hesrat Sarah.
Turn the page.
Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayeh hakol atah lehoshia. Mechachel chaim bechesed, mechayeh hakol berakamim rabim, somech noflim velofech olim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar. Mi kamocha bal gevurot, umidu melach, melech memiz umchayeh, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'nehemanata lechayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, mikayeh hakol.
Turn the page again.
אתה קדוש, שמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללו חסלנה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. 173 at the top. A blessing wish for all of us for Shabbat. We read together at the top of 173. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. Let all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh Hashem. We continue with the singing of Ritzei on the next page. The Hebrews on 175.
Israel, Tamid avodat Israel Hamecha Al Karov Lechol Koreav Pinel Havatecha Vichanenu Shevach Rochacha
I apologize for directing you to the wrong side of the page for the Hebrew. It was beautiful to listen to, no matter what. We are on the top of page 177. There's a reading based on the Hoda'ah, which means acknowledgement or thanksgiving or gratitude. We read together. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth, which day by day sustains us.
For all these and more, we offer thanks.
Baruch atah Adonai, atov shimcha. So I'm told that you know the Jeff Klepper Shalom Rav, right? You've
Done it a couple
here?
times.
A couple thousand?
Oh, well.
So turn the page. Please feel free to join in. And if you don't sing, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to come out there and get into your face.
Even if you do sing, he'll get in your face.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki Ata Melech Adon L'chol HaShalom.
Israel,
atah Adonai, hamvarech emo Yisrael b'shalom. There's a beautiful reading right across from the bottom of the page. Don't stop after beating the swords into plowshares. Don't stop. Go on beating them and make musical instruments out of them. Whoever wants to make war again will have to turn them into plowshares first. We continue with a moment of opening our hearts to those who are not well. I have to tell you, I have no one on the list. But before the Mishnah Baruch is sung, it's on page 351, I'm pretty sure. I almost will get that right. What? Hold on half a second, please. I will get there. It's on page 371. And I'll tell you what, I'll go around and we'll share names. So let's start with names of those who do healing for body, mind, and spirit. Student of mine in Pittsburgh who this fall went to the University of Michigan for a football game because that's where his mother went to school. And at the end of the game, he told his mother he had a headache, and they took him right to the hospital, and he has a brain tumor. And I think of Jonah every Mishnah Baruch, and I wish for healing of body, mind, and spirit for all of those you've named and all those who are unnamed as well. Mishnah Baruch.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
On page 180, you'll find a prayer from the 5th century written by a rabbi to recite after his own Amidah. It's become so popular, it's in every prayer book, Reconstructionist, Reform, Conservative, Orthodox. But there are also readings on the left side of the page. These are to be done silently right now, or you might simply pray the prayer that's etched on your own heart. Every word we've said tonight has been in a book. The prayers of your own heart are for you to write and to offer to God now in silence. in the Hebrew at the bottom of 180. Drive me crazy. Oh, send shalom imromam uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael ve'akol yoshvei Wonderful Rabbi Sam Stahl of San Antonio, Texas, said every time a rabbi gets up to speak, she or he can talk about the timely or the timeless. And of course, the best ones, the ones who really know how to give a sermon, find a way to do both. So I want to warn you at the beginning, I'm not going to talk about Jerry Springer. I'm not talking about Tucker Carlson. I'm not talking about Don Lemon. I'm not talking about tweets. I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about where we get our Jewish values. So many people I meet say to me, well, I just know what's right. And so many people have to figure out on their own. But as Jews, we do not have to do that. Our tradition asks us to study a very particular text this season. In the 7 weeks between Pesach and Shavuot, the holiday of receiving the Torah, we're supposed to study the briefest volume of the Talmud. It is not concerned with the detail of ritual law or the complexity of contracts. No, Pirkei Avot, the chapters of the Fathers, is concerned with purely moral teaching. It is 7 chapters of brief sayings, aphorisms, advice for good living. We're supposed to study a chapter a week. We are in week 4 now. That's an amazing chapter. It is enough wisdom for a lifetime of study and practice. No original wisdom I could offer would be superior to the teachings of the chapters of Pirkei Avot. In this garden of riches, I'd like to offer 3 teachings in the name of the most famous teacher of the early rabbinic period, from the earlier part of Pirkei Avot, Rabbi Hillel. Who was Hillel? How many of you have heard of Hillel? Raise your hand. Very good. Jewish education at its best. He was so great a teacher that a school of thought was established in his name for generations after his death, Beit Hillel. The stories of Hillel describe a man who was honest, faithful, and true like most other rabbis, but even more, Hillel seasoned the knowledge of Torah with empathy for others. There's a story of the student who would not be denied. There was a student who couldn't pay the doorkeeper of the study hall, so he climbed up on the roof and put his ear to the skylight to hear the rabbi's lesson. When snow covered him up, he was taken inside and warmed up. When they realized he risked his life for learning, they dispensed with the fees to enter the study hall under Hillel. The teacher who never lost his temper. Once a man wagered his friend a lot of money, not on an app on your phone, that he could make, that was supposed to be a joke, sorry, that he could make Hillel lose his temper. He called for Hillel when he was sleeping, again when he was eating, even when he was bathing. And each time he was interrupted, the man asked insulting questions of Hillel, and each time Hillel took the questions seriously until finally the man who made the wager blew up and lost his temper instead and lost the wager. It was a rabbi who interpreted the law for us, not always for God. There's a controversy concerning the wedding liturgy of biblical verses to recite to a bride at a wedding. We're supposed to say, "Oh, the beautiful bride." But one of the men asked, "What if you're way ahead of me? What if she's not so beautiful?" And Rabbi Shammai said you couldn't sing those verses because it wasn't true. And Hillel said every bride is beautiful on her wedding day. He's most famous for saying this following teaching: Im ein ani li mili, uksha'ani la'atzmi ma'ani, im lo achshavi matai. If I'm not for myself, who will be for me? If I'm only for myself, what, not who, what am I? And if not now, when? This teaching, to me, guides everything we do. How we care for Jews because they're Jews, but how our caring is not limited to Jews because we care about all of Bnei Adam, all of God's creatures. The chapter, the Pirkei Avot that I want to talk about, has another teaching that's just as rich. It says, Lo tadin et chaverecha ad shetegia limkom. Do not judge your friend until you have arrived in his or her place. In a place where there are no mensches, strive to be one, and do not separate yourself from the community. Now, I'm sure all have stories we could tell about how these teachings could have guided our lives, or maybe already have. They have sure touched mine. So I offer 3 stories about these teachings in action. Years ago, when I was a young man in downtown Cincinnati, waiting on the street for my father-in-law to finish his work at the local newspaper, a woman approached me, bleeding from cuts with torn clothing. She had been in a car accident. Could I help her, she asked me. I said, sure, wait here, and I went off to find a police officer. When I found one, I told him that there had been an accident and a woman was hurt, and I needed him to come right away. He said, go back and be with her until he arrived. But when I told her what I had done, she was not grateful. She cursed me out. She said, you're bringing a police officer to me, a black woman? You don't understand a thing. And she ran away, needing assistance, not a police officer who was going to hassle her about having no license or insurance. Now, I grew up believing that all police officers were my friends. I failed to think about what police officers would mean to her. I had not been limkoma, in her place. I was offering her harm, not help. I forgot Hillel's lesson that night: do not judge someone until you've arrived in her place in life. I think of my hero, Fred Plattner, in Wausau, Wisconsin. In my first pulpit, more than 30 years ago, Fred Plattner was the one who stood out as a mensch. We had an annual walk to raise money for world hunger. Fred led that walk. He stood up to protect Cambodian immigrants. He stood up to oppose a white hate group. He was willing to stand up and be counted despite being a respected corporate figure in the community. Where did his moral courage come from? When the Nazis rounded up his village and hauled them all off to concentration camps, he ran off into the forest and joined the partisans to fight back, even though he was just a youth. After that, what was there in northern Wisconsin that could rattle him except a moose? When a radical white hate group called the Posse Comitatus threatened us in 1985, Fred organized the protest against them. His enormous personal courage in the face of hatred in his newly adoptive land blew me away. And it is wonderful to know that there are people like Fred who have experienced some of the hatred in life and will not tolerate in others. In a place where there are few mensches, strive to be one, as Fred Plattner was. Even longer ago, I served a student congregation for 4 years in Seminole, Oklahoma. If you don't know where that is, it's in east central Oklahoma at the end of the Trail of Tears from Florida. From Cincinnati, I'd fly to St. Louis, then fly to Tulsa, rent a car, drive down 2 hours on 2-lane blacktop through Prague. Prague is where all the Czechs settled. They didn't call it Prague, they called it Prague. And I would go down there and serve about 22 families spread out over 300 miles in places like Ada, Shawnee, Wewoka, Conoway, and Tecumseh. In the third of my 4th years there, a woman named Sandy, her name has been changed to protect the innocent, came to our congregation with a 7-year-old daughter for services in religious school. When I asked her what town she lived in, she said, Roth. I said, what? Roth, Oklahoma. It turned out that Roth was 75 miles away. She lived with her husband, a Jewish guy from Brooklyn, who had wanted to get away from it all. Apparently, Roth, Oklahoma, is away from it all. Having been there, I can readily agree. She was so lonely, she told me. She fought with her husband, who didn't care about being Jewish. She wanted to give her daughter a Jewish education, to which he agreed as long as he didn't have to do a thing. Tensions between Sandy and her husband rose steadily, and it turned out she was allergic to everything on the farm they lived on, being a Brooklyn girl. And one day they got into it, and she took a gun from his coat pocket and said, "Don't come near her." Well, you know how this ends. He's a Jewish macho man from Brooklyn and Roth, and he doesn't think she'll pull the trigger. He's wrong. Thankfully, he only suffered wounds on his arms. As being a Brooklyn girl, she had never shot anything in her life. Sandy came to me and pleaded with me to organize the Jewish community to aid her defense at the trial, and I want you to know I did my part. I personally testified to Sandy's problems. But the community did not. To a person, they would hear about her dilemma and say, "Roth, what is she doing in Roth? We could help her if she lived around these parts." The good news for her was that she was found innocent. The bad news is she never got over her isolation. It is not for nothing that the same Hillel, this great rabbi, taught, "Al tifrosh min hatzibur." Do not separate yourself from the community. We think of rabbinic teaching as being, well, rabbinic. But they were keen students of the human condition and wrote wisdom we could use today in Wausau, Roth, Pittsburgh, or Sylvania. Don't judge someone else if you arrived in their place. In a place where there are no mensches, be one. Do not separate yourself from the community. These are just a few of the morsels of wisdom of Pirkei Avot. I hope you will have a chance to study more of them as we head on away from slavery in Egypt and toward Mount Sinai to Revelation. Just remember, if it all seems too much and it all seems too hard, there's another famous verse teaching from Pirkei Avot, which is, "Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor." It is not incumbent upon you to finish the work, that you are not free to desist from it. If you say to me, "I've lived my life, what can I do to make the world a better place?" you might give someone at Temple a smile. Maybe they need only that. You might give somebody a ride. You might give somebody a call. I hope and pray that this wisdom permeates the polarized culture in which we live. So when I come next month, I do not have to talk about Tucker Carlson. I do not have to talk about Don Lemon. I do not have to talk about any of the polarizing factors that would consume us. Hopefully, we can all take care of ourselves, reach out to others, and do it now. If not now, when? Shabbat Shalom. A few announcements. First of all, I do know that people are getting signatures for helping to preserve reproductive freedom in Ohio. Some have asked, isn't this a violation of 501c3 law? And the answer is no. You can do anything to advocate for a policy or a position, not for a candidate or a party. So if this is near and dear to your heart, and I know it's near and dear to many hearts in this congregation, in my life and my family as well, feel free to sign. There is no legal ramification to that whatsoever. Tomorrow, there's Parsha and prayer at 10:30. We'll be in this room, but my chair is going to be in the middle there so I can see you better and sing with you more. And we'll tell stories and share and do prayers and do the morning service and talk about Kiddushim. Kiddushim means holiness, how we are called upon to be holy. So one last thing about Kiddushim. Kadosh means holy. You know the word Kiddush, Kaddish, Kiddusha. You know all of these words. So what does holy mean in English? Does anybody know? So some of you know the story because I tell the same stories over again. I simply recite them. When I was in 4th grade at Temple Sinai in Tenafly, New Jersey, my teacher, Mrs. Kaplan, said, "And this is holy." And I was 10 years old. "What does holy mean, Mrs. Kaplan?" And she said, "Jamie, you're bothering me. It means sacred." I was 10. "Mrs. Kaplan, what does sacred mean?" Really getting on my nerves. It means sanctified. Now raise my little hand. this a community celebration of Yom HaAtzmaut, the 75th birthday of Israel. Our Shinshinim are here. Wave to everybody, please. And more announcements are coming.
The flowers on the bema this evening are in loving memory of our mothers, Frances A. Rubin and Eileen Truehalf from David and Diane Truehalf. The Kiddush this evening is in loving memory of husband, father, and grandfather Sidney Levine from Richie and Penny Levine and family. You know of all of our goings-on in the next few days from the rabbi. I will also tell you that it's time to get your reservations in to join Rabbi Arne Slutelberg for a Jewish comedy night. Many of you will remember he was here back the end, and I think November, December, or October, something like that. Anyway, he's going to do a comedy night. It's supposedly very, very good. He has done it all over the country, and it's very well received. So reservations need to be in by May 15th. Check the May bulletin for other upcoming events, and please join us for Kiddush in the hallway, where we will have an opportunity to greet one another. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We'll see each other for Kiddush right after the service. Excellent. On page 586, you'll find our concluding set of prayers, including Aleinu, for which we rise and body your spirit. Please be seated. On page 595 is a reading before the Mornis Kaddish. From Chana Senesh, יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ואינם. There are stars up above so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. As I read the names of those whose yahrzeits are being observed, if you are saying Kaddish for that person, we'll ask you to rise in your place so that we can recognize you as a mourner and greet you after the service as a mourner as well. And then we'll have everyone stand with the mourners for the recitation of Kaddish. Madeline C. Brown, Arthur Davis, Marion Wasterstrom Davis, David A. Edelman, Marilyn G. Eisler, Elberna Bernie Epstein, Lillian W. Feinberg, Dr. Philip Pidgey Goldstein, Meta Green, Anna M. Gross, Beth Rosenberg Herman, Rachel Isaacson, Molly Jacobs, Kalma Karen, Samuel Clivens, Sue Kreinberg, Sidney Levine, Abraham L. Myers, Louis Michael, Jenny Snyder Miller, Robert Nassauer, Helen F. Osterman, Esther H. Powder, Phyllis Rubin, Francis Rubin, Claire Patricia Schaefer, Saul Schiff, Alvin D. Schneider, Clara Thal, Eileen B. Truhaft, Michiel Van Dam, Geraldine Wolf Weinstein, Estelle Sissy Webney, and Janet Weinman. And we note the recent death of Dr. Martin Schreibman. Shiva will be held at the house of her daughter on Sunday at 1:30. All are invited to go and offer comfort to the mourner. We rise as a community for those who are mourning. As we say Kaddish. Yid Gadal, Yid Kadash, Shemei Rabbah, V'yomad Evrach Yirutei, V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chai Echon, V'yom Echon, Chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, B'agalav V'zman Kariv Yimru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach, Le'olam Olamei Amaya. Yitbarach, V'yishtabach, V'yitba'ar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh, V'yitadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shmei Kudshal V'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran b'yoma v'imru amen. Yehi shlom rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, u'ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace in the high heavens cause peace to descend on all of us, all Israel, upon all humanity that needs comfort at this difficult time in the world, as together we all say.
Amen.
Sit down for a minute, please. What I did not do, I have to find the right page for it. I think it's on 570 in your book, you'll find the prayer for counting the Omer. This is the 22nd, actually tomorrow is the 23rd day of the Omer. It's a mitzvah to do the counting from 1 to 49. And if you look at 570, you'll find at the top it says, Hineni muchan u'mzuman lekayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat ha'omer. I'm ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Now, for those of you who say, well, I don't know the blessing for the Omer, you know 90% of it. Okay? You know Baruch through Vitzivanu. And then it's Al, say Al, Sfirat, HaOmer. Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, Vitzivanu al Sfirat HaOmer. Hayom esrim v'shalosh yom shehem Shalosh Shavuot ve'ushtayim yamim la'omer. This is the 23rd day of the Omer, which is 3 weeks and 2 days of the counting of the Omer. Our final song on 626, you know the words. It's called Adon Olam. But in Israel, it's interesting to me, and I do this in honor of Yom HaAtzmaut, prayers have a way of hitting the pop charts. And 30 years ago, this hit number 5, just so you know. I know the Shinshinim know this as well. So it's on page 626 if you can find that. Oh, 625. Well, then I have it. Very good. By the way, you know, many of you have talked about how much you've enjoyed my presence here this year. I failed page numbers in rabbinical school. They're just horrible. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'echasa B'hefson Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Le'acharei Kichlotan Kol Levado Yimlok Norah Hashem Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ek Nasal V'chefsa Kol Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharek Echlot HaKol Levado Yimnot Nara V'hu Haya V'hu Ove V'hu Yeh B'tifara Adon Olam Hashem Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Le'ek Nasal V'chefsa Kol Azay Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharek Echlot HaKol Levado Yimnot Nara V'hu Haya V'hu Ove B'tifara V'hu Haya V'hu Ove B'tifara. First verse. Adon Olam Hashem